My foster mom abused me, never fed me, and didn't let me go to school. To survive and pay for my education, I spent years in the gray areas making money. Every single dollar came from darkness and bloodshed. When I barely escaped death again, wiping blood off my face and getting handed $2,000, my birth parents found me. They told me I'm the real daughter of one of the richest people. And the timid girl behind them? She had a strong resemblance to my foster mom. The air was thick with the metallic smell of blood, and sticky liquid blurred my eyes. My calf throbbed with pain, a sign of another bone fracture. But I couldn't care less. The guy in his 20s across from me lay on the ground, wheezing but unable to get up. I won. That was enough. I limped over to the underground fight manager, gritting my teeth. Well, kid, you're getting better and better. He handed me an extra 1,000 for a job well done, not disappointing the guests. My hands were weak, so I took the envelope with my mouth and turned, crashing into something solid. Ouch. Annoyed, I frowned and looked at the person I bumped into. But the man in front of me spoke, tension in his voice. Are you Linda? Linda, I'm your biological father. I paused at his words, slowly raising my head to see him. A stranger in his 40s, eyes red and fixated on me. This was my real dad? I thought coldly. So that woman, who I'd called mom for 15 years, could soak my eyes with pepper water and sew my lips shut. Turns out she wasn't my real mom. The woman claiming to be my birth mother had her makeup streaked with tears. Linda, we're here to take you home. We're sorry, so sorry it took us this long. We won't ever lose you again. They seemed genuinely upset, but I didn't spare them a glance. Instead, I looked at the girl in an expensive princess dress behind them, wearing a polite smile. She had traces of my foster mother's features. As if sensing my gaze, my parents introduced her. This is your sister, Carrie. 15 years ago, Wendy switched you and Carrie out of spite, and we only just found you. But don't worry, Carrie promised she would take good care of you. Wendy, my foster mom, was the reason for my misery. She swapped me with her biological daughter and wrecked my life. Yet Carrie, the beneficiary, still extended a clean hand with a smile. But I caught that brief look of disdain. Nice to meet you, sis. Let's get along. I shook her hand, but I was blunt. How about you get the hell out of my real parents' house? Carrie didn't expect that, freezing up, tears welling as she looked to our parents. They wiped their eyes, forcing a smile. Linda, we know Wendy's horrible, but Carrie is innocent. You need to learn to forgive. I snorted, rolling up my pants to reveal my battered leg. Forgive? You weren't the ones Wendy abused or stripped of an education. You didn't have to fight underground to survive at 10. While I was being abused by Carrie's birth mom, she lived as me in your home carefree. Is she deserving of forgiveness? And you guys never raised me, so no lectures, alright? I was harsh, my tone hard and impatient. My parents, initially frustrated, gasped seeing my injuries. My mom broke down crying again. My dad's eyes darkened. Wendy's truly evil. Linda, don't be mad. Let's get you to the hospital. I didn't refuse. Only an idiot would do that. I can chew out Carrie, but won't let my anger cost me my rightful life. With a chance at a better future, I would seize it. Plus, Nolan was waiting for help. I was worried about getting enough money, but having wealthy biological parents was a good break. In a luxury car, I told them, head to the 3rd hospital in the suburbs. Mom reached over, don't worry, Linda. We have money. We'll take you to the best hospital. I shook my head, insisting, just take me to the 3rd hospital. They wanted to say something, but drove me there anyway. Carefully supporting me, they entered with me. I didn't check in. I limped into a crowded ward. Pushing through various odors in the air, I went to a thin pale boy connected to countless tubes. First thing, I handed over the money. Nolan, here's what I earned from fighting. Don't worry. I'll fight again on Monday. The prize is high, enough to cure you. Nolan gave a weak smile but didn't take the cash. Suddenly gripping my hand, worried, Monday? That's Beast Night. Those fighters are monsters. I want you to save me, but not at the expense of your life. Before I could respond, my dad held me back. Mom choked up, child, stop. We'll cover your friend's treatment. She hugged me tight, trembling. Such a good kid, living through so much hardship, and still helping others. Don't worry, I'll handle this. You go see the doctor. Hearing this, I finally exhaled, agreeing to get treated. Glad they offered to pay. I would have found other ways. Though my trust isn't absolute, I had to heal first. Only with a healthy body can I repay them in the future. I thought I could hold on, but the doctor's sedatives knocked me out completely. When I woke up, I was in a room that smelled of luxury and elegance. Seriously, if I hadn't seen it myself, I couldn't have imagined someone living in such a palace-like place. My mom looked at me with surprise, holding some kind of hot porridge. Linda, you're finally awake. The doctor said you have a fractured bone. Fortunately, since you're young, you'll recover if you rest well for a while. Here, have some porridge to get your strength back. It breaks my heart to see you like this. I hadn't even spoken when suddenly there was a loud noise at the door. A kid around 12 or 13 burst in. If my mom hadn't stopped him, he would have landed a punch on my face. Who do you think you are, taking my sister's room? Look at yourself. You're only fit to stay in the doghouse at the back of my house. Get out of here. Carrie rushed in, but when the door was kicked open, I clearly saw she was already standing there, probably timing her entrance just right. She looked annoyed and scolded the boy Jason. How many times have I told you? I chose to give my room to my sister. She's sick, why are you making trouble? Then she looked at me with caring eyes. But it was so obviously fake it didn't matter. Sister, don't take it to heart. Jason's just a kid and doesn't know better. Forgive him this time, okay? My mom immediately pushed Jason back with a stern tone. What's wrong with you? Go away. We've finally found your big sister after all she's been through. You must respect and love her from now on. Got it? Jason suddenly lunged at me again. Get out. I only have one sister, Carrie. Not some random nobody pretending to be my sister. Mom wasn't prepared this time, so when she wanted to stop him, Jason's fist was just a centimeter from my face. In a split second, I flipped the cover off, grabbed his fist with my right hand, and twisted it fiercely at a 90-degree angle. His face twisted in pain. Within seconds, he turned pale, crying and screaming, "Ow! Let go! I'm gonna kill you, you!" When he was about to collapse, I let go and looked at him with no emotion, not holding back my sarcasm. With those skills, it's embarrassing to even try. You can't even take me on. Are you the brother or the sister here? Over the years, I've been in hundreds of boxing matches, fighting strong, brawny adults. Jason, with his puny punches, doesn't even register. He clutched his hand, tears streaming, still hurling insults at me. You orphan. How dare you hit me? I'll make you leave this place. I could see Mom felt sorry for him, but she'd had enough. She raised her hand, but didn't actually hit him. What's wrong with you? Apologize to your sister. No need. I'll do it for her. In one swift move, I slapped him hard. His eyes wide with disbelief. I glared at him intensely, like I'm some stray or something. Who's better off here, huh? If you can't keep your mouth shut, I'll hit you every time I see you. Startled by my glare, he fell silent instantly. I noticed disappointment in Carrie's eyes. She smiled wide, trying to play it cool. Sister, if Jason's out of line, it's fine to teach him a lesson. But take it easy, right? If his right hand gets permanently damaged, he'll suffer for life. Mom glanced at his injury, wanting to say something but stopped. I shot Carrie a cold look. Wow, imagine someone like your mom birthing a saint like you. He punches me, you want me to forgive him. Now I defend myself, you say I'm too harsh? And when your mom slapped me, where were you then? What kind of person are you, barking like a dog here? Carrie snapped. You. I crossed my arms, smirking. Can't keep up the act, huh? Guess you're not as good as you thought. Other kids from poor families learn to read the room. But I never had that chance. Begging and sucking up never worked. Under Wendy's abuse, surviving was my only goal. Eventually, I realized only a strong fist could protect me. Carrie, of course, would never admit she was pretending. She forced out a few tears, looking at Mom to make her stand up for her. Mom was calling the family doctor to check on Jason, tidying up the mess. Then Mom sighed. All right, Carrie, leave. I have something to discuss with your sister. Reluctantly, Carrie left. Dad came in. After a brief exchange of glances with Mom, Dad sighed. We found out over the years, you've been fighting in underground boxing rings to eat and study. It was our oversight that caused you to suffer so much. We'll shut down those rings. They accept minors, it's inhumane. But Linda, we'll do our best to provide medical treatment and make up for the past. You don't need to fight anymore. Your siblings will treat you well. You don't have to be so hostile toward them. I laughed. The first time I went to a boxing ring, I was 7. The owner told me to leave, had people throw me out. I clung to the bodyguard's leg, refused to let go, took countless hits, nearly fainted but wouldn't give up. Finally, the owner accepted me, after signing a life or death waiver. I remember my first opponent was a guy in his 20s. He laughed so hard at me he nearly lost his teeth. Isn't this a gift of easy money? I had no skills. His punch had stars dancing before my eyes. I was his punching bag, getting up again and again, throwing pathetic punches. But I won in the end. Couldn't fight, sure, but my ability to take a hit was top-notch. Seized on his tired moments to beat, shove, even bite. No real rules in an underground fight. It's winner takes all. I didn't care about anything or anyone, just going crazy and fearless. After an hour-long brawl, I finally kicked him to the ground. I walked out of the ring with just $1,000 that day, not even enough to cover medical bills. But I laughed, because I knew from then on, I could earn my tuition here. Over the years, I've been on the brink of death there many times. All they say is how hard it is. I looked up at them and said, if it weren't for that boxing club taking me in, who knows where I'd be starving. So why aren't you blaming Wendy and letting the boxing club take the hit? Would my siblings treat me well? Jason just ran his mouth like crazy. Are you serious, or just trying to make me laugh? My mom looked troubled. But didn't you scare Wendy off when you were 12? We haven't heard from her since. How can we blame her? Don't worry about it. Your brother doesn't usually act like that. He suddenly went bananas, she said. I scoffed. Missing, and did you call the cops? You think the underground boxing club is tougher to deal with than Wendy? Who are you trying to protect? As for Jason, it doesn't matter what he's usually like. Acting up in front of me is just asking for it. Whoever egged him on is just as guilty, I added. My dad looked serious and said, Linda, listen to us. Your mom and I love you. Searching for Wendy won't change anything. The damage is done. Your sister's doing well in school. She's got a future. Knowing her mom's a criminal could ruin her life. I laughed. Wendy ruined half of my life. Coming back doesn't mean I see light at the end of the tunnel. Protecting the daughter of my enemy, you call that love? My dear parents. They both looked away and eventually left. Think it over, was all they said. That night, they brought me dinner as if nothing happened, neither mentioning the day's events. We both knew the chance of the other backing down was slim to none. After dinner, Carrie came by. In front of them, she brought up my room again. Is this room comfy, sis? She asked. I glanced at her. Why do you keep talking about this room? I'm the daughter here. You've been squatting in my place so long. Do you think it's yours? I never said you should give it to me. It's mine anyway. Your real mom lost all shame, did everything to get you in, then ran off. And you're using her efforts to be nice? Her face turned red. I know you hate me, but I didn't know back then. I was just a baby. Sis, if you really can't stand me, I'll leave. She didn't know? Yeah, right. Wendy hadn't worked in years, yet bought luxury stuff. Where'd the money come from? Only one answer. Carrie must have secretly known Wendy's her birth mom for ages. I pointed to the door. Then get out already. Don't just talk. Carrie was stunned by my bluntness. She moved as if to pack up and go. My parents quickly stopped her. Your sister's just upset. Don't take it seriously, they said. We raised you, we'd never want you to leave. Carrie hugged them, crying. I don't know how to make sis happy, but I can't leave you, she sobbed. Watching their family drama unfold, I felt like the odd one out. Good thing I lacked emotions. I wasn't hurt, just found it ironic. If Wendy had treated me like this, I might not have returned. And if she knew you cared so much for her daughter, she'd probably regret not hitting me harder. Their embrace turned awkwardly tense. My mom sighed, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. Yes, you love each other. Spare me the theatrics. Shaking their heads, they left with Carrie. Days passed, they visited a lot less. Carrie backed off, and with my parents watching, Jason didn't dare bother me. So I fully recovered. But when I finally walked out, Seeing the huge mansion, Jason couldn't help himself. Hey Mom, Dad, where's the watch you bought last month? The one I love. Look for it, please. Soon as Jason spoke, Carrie added, right, the one that cost a ton. Losing it would be tragic. They had the help search, but 2 hours passed with nothing. Except the room of the eldest miss. They've looked everywhere, the housekeeper reported. Jason's gaze locked onto me. Hope no one's broke and stealing stuff, he sneered. I said stop bringing random folks in. Linda wouldn't steal, my parents chided him. Carrie chimed in. Might have dropped it last time Jason was causing trouble in her room. Jason threw a fit, insisting they find his watch. Finally, they turned to me apologetically. Linda, mind if they search your room? I smirked. Sure. Predictably, the watch was found on my nightstand. Jason was super excited, pointing at me and cussing me out. Ha, it's you broke idiot. Can't keep yourself from stealing, huh? Mom, Dad, send her to the cops already. First she's stealing a watch, next she'll be stealing company secrets. Carrie jumped in, pretending to calm things down. Jason, what are you saying? You probably just dropped it in her room last time. Jason rolled his eyes. Even if I dropped it, the nightstand was shut. How would it get inside? Someone's clearly got sticky fingers. What's next, stealing people too? Mom and Dad looked at me with furrowed brows. Linda, what's going on? Didn't we say we'd give you money when you got back? Why would you need to steal? Jason laughed even harder. Oh, I see what's going on, playing innocent, huh? If you need cash, just say it. Feeling sorry for you. We might even give you some. I smirked, eyes flashing cold. I moved closer to Jason, who suddenly looked a bit nervous. You. What are you doing? I'm warning you, I'm not scared. I grabbed him by his carefully styled hair and tossed him aside. Before he knew it, my fist landed square on his face. Ah! He screamed, spitting out blood, and his eyes turned red, ready to fight back. I hit him again, this time in the gut. No defense there. And he looked about ready to pass out. My parents jumped in, panicked, trying to pull me off. But I wasn't budging. I slapped Jason's face a few more times, only stopping when he was swollen beyond recognition. Mom and Dad were furious, scolding me. We've told you so many times. You can't just go around fighting. What's wrong with you that you can't act normal? Look at what you've done to your brother. You're the one who stole. Why are you acting so high and mighty? Such a poorly executed setup, and yet they acted like they were blind to it. Carrie's eyes lit up, a smirk on her face, looking like victory was hers. I pulled out my phone and played a video. The door to my room opened quietly one night. Jason sneaked in and placed his watch inside my nightstand. The footage was crystal clear, leaving everyone in shock. Especially my parents, faces flushed red. What's this, Jason? Why would you do this to your sister? Jason had no explanation, so he just pretended to pass out. Carrie coughed lightly. Jason's young. If he takes a wrong path, he can still fix it. Lucky thing she records her sleep. Otherwise she could have been wrongly accused. My parents looked at me confused. Really, who records themselves sleeping? I chuckled. Well, thanks to your real mom. When I used to sleep, she'd sneak in and pour hot sauce in my eyes. I'm no fool. If I couldn't fight back then, I could at least record it. In the last fight, I got a tiny camera and attached it to my phone. Gave me some real peace of mind. Carrie choked, forcing a rough smile. Sis, you've been through so much. I smiled back. No worries, you've been enjoying the life I should have had, right? Carrie couldn't think of a word to say. My parents awkwardly tried to explain. Didn't know it was this little brat setting you up, Linda. We nearly accused you wrongly, we're sorry. I snorted. Lots of things you're sorry for. This one's just another drop in the ocean. With guilt etched into their faces, I turned my cold gaze on Jason. I nudged him with my foot. Quit playing dead. Your tricks are amateur at best. Stay in line, or you'll end up embarrassing yourself more. Next time won't be as easy. My parents berated him too. Your sisters had it tough, and you're being so inconsiderate. Stay out of your sister's room from now on. Forget about your allowance next month. Jason opened his eyes full of hate. I scoffed. Idiot. Being used as a pawn and still enjoying it. A week later, my parents arranged for me to attend a better high school. On the first day, I noticed my classmates giving me strange looks. That's Linda, right? Carrie's sister? I heard she's not much of a student. How'd she end up here in the honors class? Don't you know? Carrie's family has money. Dropping someone into school is nothing for them. So annoying having someone like that here. If she weren't coming, Felix wouldn't need to transfer out. So it's her fault Felix left? Gross. Even if she were as smart as her little sister, it'd be fine. But she's clueless. It's insulting. The chatter grew louder, but I kept my eyes on Carrie in the middle of the classroom. She held her head high, daring me with her gaze since there were no parents around. I sneered, taking the only empty seat. My deskmate, a girl heavy on cheap perfume and makeup, pushed me annoyed, her tone hostile. Who said you could sit here? Get lost. I don't want trash in my way. I didn't say much, just shoved her back. She toppled over, taking the desk and her scattered stuff with her. Eyes wide, she quickly got up. How dare you push me? Are you asking for it? She swung at me, but I caught her hand and slapped her face instead. She shrieked. You hit me. You. She lunged at me, but I grabbed her neck, easily lifting her up. The whole classroom was filled with the sound of them gasping. Her face turned all red, then went pale. I just flat out tossed her out. Seriously tossed her. She landed on Carrie's desk, clutching her throat and coughing. In the dead silence, I walked slowly up to Carrie, towering over her. Using Jason at home was one thing, but using these idiots at school too? They're no match for me. And you can stop being a coward. Carrie was still playing dumb. What are you talking about? I closed in on her, and she kept backing up. Carrie, your mom couldn't handle me, and neither can you. Just wait, your good days are behind you now. Her gaze turned sharp, and we finally stopped pretending. Linda, don't get cocky. I have plenty of ways to take you down. I let out a long breath. That's more like it. Facing off head-on instead of this fake sister act. Gives me the creeps. I smirked. Oh, I'm scared. Her eyes were cold as she looked at me, then darted away when I stared back. Eventually, the teacher came in to take that girl to the hospital. And naturally, I got called into the office too. They watched the footage, and yep, she started it. My parents already explained my situation to the teacher before. He sternly told me, even self-defense has limits. I'll tell your parents to cover the medical bills for Lily. Tone it down. No fighting is allowed in my class. Back in the classroom, they still eyed me with disdain, but no one dared to mess with me again. After school, my family's driver didn't show up, so I was gonna catch a ride home. But this blonde-haired guy blocked my way. Mike, it's her. The fierce-looking man had Lily, today's punch recipient, behind him. On either side of Lily stood Carrie and Jason, along with a few other punks smoking. The blonde guy looked me over, then turned to Jason. This little thing? She actually beat you guys up like that? You can't be serious. I could knock her out with one punch. Jason, still wary, glared at me with venom. She's older than me, of course I couldn't win. Why else would I call you? Carrie gritted her teeth too. Mike, teach her a lesson. She thinks she's still running the place. Mike stomped the cigarette out and looked at me. Kneel and bang your head 10 times each for the 3 of them. And we're cool. I found it funny. You each give me 10. And maybe you'll walk out of here today. Mike lost it. This mouthy brat. I'm stripping you today. He reached out with his grimy hand. But a perfect shoulder throw had him hitting the ground, face full of confusion. I failed a ton of times learning to box. I'm strong but no match for a grown man. Then I realized my small size means I'm nimble. Just like now, Mike hadn't even reacted, and I'd already stomped his stomach. Ah! He screeched like a pig, sweat breaking out on his head. I grabbed his hair, banging it against the ground like a machine. 2 minutes later, he was sobbing, had a bloody mess. Please spare me. I won't dare again. They told me to come. I'm poor and got greedy for Carrie's cash. Pretend I'm nothing and let me go. The once cocky man was bawling like a kid. The others didn't dare speak. Some just wanted to flee. I let the other punks go. But the Carrie twins and Lily were a different story. I chased them down. Fleeing wasn't an option. I slapped Carrie's face and she trembled violently. Big sis, spare me. Jason's the one grudge holding against you. It's all him. Jason screamed in panic. It wasn't me, it was Carrie. Lily was collapsed on the ground, muttering, it wasn't my idea. They called me here. No wonder they were all in this mess together. They were 2 peas in a pod. I crossed my arms, raising a brow at them. 10 headbangs each. Don't finish, you're not leaving. Lily got right to it, banging her head and looking to please. I waved her off. Go. Carrie and Jason's faces were full of humiliation, but they still wouldn't bow down. No biggie, I'll do it. A few slaps later, no more dignity or face for them. Jason dropped to his knees, numbingly banging his head. Carrie went mad, screaming, "My parents won't let this slide if you treat me like this." I nodded seriously, gave her another slap. Sharp and loud, it left her face crooked. I planned to see how they handle it. She cried, tried to speak again. More slaps silenced her, leaving fear in her eyes as she grudgingly knelt and bowed. 2 minutes later I yawned. Scram. They scurried away in a mess. Back home, those two were circling my parents, crying and complaining. "Mom and Dad, she beat us up like this. Isn't she too much? We almost didn't make it back. You've got to kick her out." "Dad, Mom, Sis hates me so much. Maybe I should just go. Even though I don't know where my mom is, it's better than dying here." My parents looked worriedly at their injuries, then asked, "What on earth happened?" I shrugged. "What else? I fought them." Dad's face darkened. "How could you beat them like this?" Looking at their swollen faces, I wondered, what else should I have done? If I didn't, would you rather have me killed by the punks they brought? They should have thought about the consequences when they called for backup. Mom and Dad looked at them with furrowed brows. Jason looked all guilty. "She's lying." I knew it. How Carrie pushed him forward so easily when things went down made sense now. He's a total team backstabber. From Jason's expression, Mom and Dad didn't even need to ask any more questions. "You actually got hooligans to bully your sister." Carrie hastily tried to fix it. "No way. Mom, Dad, you know I'm not like that. I wouldn't do it." While they seemed confused, I went right up to Carrie, ignoring her protests, and snatched her phone. "There's gotta be some record if they're contacting that thug. Just take a look yourself." Carrie shouted in a panic, "No, you can't." Things were pretty clear now. Mom and Dad, furious, tossed the phone aside. "Carrie and Jason, what on earth are you trying to pull? Ever since Linda came back, you've been scheming against her. Is this how you're planning on making us miserable?" The two just trembled, too scared to talk. "From today you're grounded. No school either." I waved my hand them off. "Mom, Dad, you don't have to put on an act around me. If you're not willing to actually punish them, then save the tough talk. This isn't the first time, and it sure won't be the last." Mom and Dad looked super awkward. "We didn't mean that. It's just you're still kids. Everyone makes mistakes. Can't just be too hard on you, right?" I smiled at them. "Since you won't, I will." That weekend, I went to visit Nolan at the hospital. He was doing a lot better, looking much healthier. The doctors say my chances of recovering are higher now. "Thank you. Oh, by the way, my friends have been looking around, and we found Wendy." The person my parents claimed was impossible to find got tracked down by some kids from the orphanage. The cops brought her in, and we got called in for questioning. Carrie looked like she ate a fly. I didn't mistreat her. I mean, she can't convict me with just her words, right? Wendy, of course, flat out denied everything. But when I handed over years' worth of footage to the police, she was dumbfounded. The videos clearly showed how she would yell, hit, and abuse me. With her expression looking like she saw a ghost, my dad sidled up to the officer. "Officer, what's going to happen with Wendy? If she gets sentenced, will my adopted daughter's future be affected?" My mom looked equally worried. "Yes. Is there any way to get her off the hook, even if it means she doesn't have to go to jail?" The officer looked at me. "I'm afraid that's unlikely. But if you could get the victim's forgiveness." I shot them a cold stare. "You've got some nerve. I found the person you wouldn't look for, and now you're shameless enough to ask me to forgive her, just to protect another daughter's future? Why should I? Honestly, the more I see you two, the more disgusted I feel. Why are you this bad at being parents? Do you really think you're that different from Wendy?" Mom and Dad lowered their heads in shame. The officer shot me a supportive look. Child abuse isn't something you just excuse. And expecting the victim to forgive? You should be better parents to your own children, and not play favorites. Mom and Dad were beet red, unable to lift their heads. Wendy got 7 years in prison for her actions. The day we left the courtroom, Carrie cried like her life was over. Mom comforted her, "Don't worry, whatever happens, we won't let you be affected." I couldn't help but laugh. Are you happy now, Linda? My biological mother's a convict now, and I can't take government exams anymore. I rolled my eyes at her. Whether she's a convict or not wouldn't stop your failure at those exams. She was so mad she almost passed out. Mom and Dad started to say something, but clammed up when they met my eyes. The school's first monthly exam ended. The teacher announced the results. Congrats to Linda. Not only did she take first in the grade, but she also topped the district exam. Everyone looked at me astonished. No way, Carrie said her grades were terrible. How did she score first? This school's exam rules are famously strict. There's no way to cheat. Guess Carrie lied because she wanted us to hate Linda. Wow, can you believe that from sisters? What a schemer. Good thing I never messed with Linda. Oh, by the way, Felix wasn't transferred out because of her. It was all Carrie spreading rumors. After that, my classmates were way friendlier to me. And Carrie's friends? Well, they dwindled. Though with money she always had a couple hangers on. Then the teacher gave me the only spot in an upcoming competition, and Carrie couldn't hold it in any longer. Why does Carrie get the spot? She just scored first place once. Why did she have to take everything from me? She yelled that while the teacher was still there. In the end, after the teacher showed everyone my past competition accomplishments, she finally shut up. Those few days competing in another city were the most peaceful of my life. But calm sees mean a storm is coming. When I got back home, they had a whole drama waiting for me. Dad and some suits were in the study, freaking out about something. Mom kept going in and out, looking more and more worried. Carrie was there, trying to comfort them. Mom, Dad, a leak isn't such a big deal, just call the cops. Our company's solid, the loss won't be massive. Dad and the others sighed in unison, it's different this time. But still they kept talking, but didn't want to call the cops. Surprisingly, Jason wasn't causing trouble for once, just kept gaming on his own. Then the computer guy let out a shout. I found the leaked IP address. It's Boss, it's from your home. All eyes turned to my parents. They got all defensive, nearly swearing to heaven. This whole company's our blood and sweat. Why would we ruin ourselves? The suits were quiet for a long time. Boss, you never know. You've only got 60% of the shares. Maybe you want more? Yeah, we've seen these reshuffles before. Carrie suddenly spoke up, Uncles, could there be some kind of misunderstanding here? If my parents were really the ones who leaked the info, would they even let you investigate? Jason put down his phone and mumbled. I saw Linda go into our parents' room that day. She looked in a hurry when she came out. Maybe she's the one who leaked it. Everyone turned to look at me. My parents were anxious and stressed. Linda, did you go in there? Are you the one who leaked it? Over the days, I had seen through Carrie and Jason's tricks, but even in this situation, they still believed Jason's nonsense. After all, I wasn't raised with them in the family. Even Wendy wants to cover for them. Shows how little they think of me. But I'm not admitting to something I didn't do. Where's the proof, Jason? Can't stop running that mouth? He stayed silent, not daring to speak up. Carrie glared at him, before looking at my parents. Why don't we check her computer? Let Uncle do some recovery, and see the history. With the previous situation in mind, my parents were a bit hesitant. But I was open about it. Go ahead, check all you want. A bunch of us went to my room and searched my computer. They found nothing suspicious. Eventually, Uncle inserted a USB drive and restored files from the past 6 months. Some confidential photos were recovered. Dad was furious. Linda, haven't we treated you well? Why would you do this to harm the company? Mom looked at me coldly. I knew you were ungrateful. Hurting your siblings was bad enough. But this? Carrie chimed in, pushing her advantage. Mom, Dad, I don't even know how to defend her now. Maybe it's better to just kick her out before she causes more trouble. Jason grinned ear to ear. Yeah. Kick her out. The tension was thick. I slammed my hand on the table to get everyone's attention. I pulled out a small USB drive, hooked it up, and multiple chat logs popped up on the screen. Hey, how much can you offer for my dad's company's accounts? Well, how about that? The second miss of the company wants to do business with me. They must not care about you, the foster kid, anymore? Cut the crap. 200 million, take it or leave it. Deal, the money's sent over. When will I get the stuff? You gotta promise not to say it's from me. If anyone finds out, Just blame it on my sister, Linda. Carrie looked like a statue, ready to crumble. I stared at her coldly. These records, hard-won evidence for me, came complete with clear account holder information. Just by confronting the other side, the truth will come out. I took up boxing back in the day, not just to support myself for school. I had many pals, some of whom were orphans later adopted by wealthy families. Among them were some of a city's big shots. By chance, this rival's adopted daughter was a little girl I had helped before. So he knew about my situation from her, and was willing to help me out this once. After all, against my dad he stood to gain. My dad quickly called him up. On the other end, the voice came through clearly. Of course, it was your second daughter who gave it to me. Boss, doesn't feel too good to be double-crossed, huh? Haha. You've been in the business all your life, and can't figure out a little girl. You let a wolf in, and you're reaping what you sow. Dad's rage peaked, and he swung a slap across Carrie's face. She spun around dramatically before hitting the floor in tears. Dad, he pointed at the door, get out. You frame Linda all the time, fine. But how dare you gamble with the company's interest? Do you even know how much you cost us? She crawled over to Mom and tugged at her pants. Mom kicked her away. I've had enough. You're just way too cruel. For you, we've wronged your sister enough. Can't you see that? What more do you want? From now on, you're out of the Lynn family. Never come back. Carrie refused to leave, so my parents called security to drag her out. At the door she begged Mom, Dad, please, let me back in. I won't dare again. She cried her heart out. But my folks were too busy with damage control to care. Carrie left, and no one knew where she went. 3 days later, a competitor filed a tax evasion complaint against my parents. As they were leaving the police station after investigation, they ran into Carrie. She had a stern look, ready for a last stand. You're my adoptive parents. You have to raise me. Otherwise, I'll sue you. Already overwhelmed from the recent chaos, seeing this traitor made my parents lose it. Mom slapped her, and Dad kicked her a good 5 meters away. We've more than fulfilled our obligation to provide for you. Now scram. Carrie didn't give up, and went to the police station anyway. As it turned out, my parents had indeed over-delivered on financial support. In the future, the most they'd have to do was give her a few $100 a month until she was 18. Leaving the station, Dad and Mom were fuming, and gave Carrie a few more slaps. She left sobbing and sniffling. Later, it turned out the police really did find tax evasion evidence. Explains why they were so resistant to calling the cops back then. Now our company is stuck with lots of fines and debts. Financially, it wasn't too bad for my parents, more of a reason to live frugally. Before they could catch a break, 13-year-old Jason got hauled to the police station. He said it was a guy named Mike who got him into it, but the cops never found Mike. In the end, he got busted with loads of illegal stuff, and for using drugs in a group. Even though he was a minor, he got smacked with a 10-year sentence to serve when he turned 18. In court, my dad couldn't hold back and punched Jason right there. My mom cried so hard she made herself sick. The whole family was in chaos, but I just focused on my studies, watching them get what they deserved. Later, my mom was out of it, while my dad kept grinding at work. Once the company bounced back from their crisis, they finally remembered to patch things up with me. Kiddo, don't blame us, they said. We raised Carrie for so long, we couldn't see her for what she really was. But now we see she's a backstabber and a snake. We messed up, and we hope you can forgive us. Can we have another chance? I felt disgusted. It's not because you saw through her, and it's not because you feel sorry for me. It's because she messed with your money. If she hadn't hurt the company, you'd still be in the dark. Once I hit 18, I'm out of here. I've kept track of every dollar you gave me, and after I get a job, I'll pay you back. They looked at me all guilty, but I blocked whatever else they wanted to say. The year I took my college entrance exams, the school recommended me. As I was leaving, my old buddies came to see me off. Way to go, Linda. You've done us proud, not just in studies but in everything. After all the hardship Linda's been through, she deserves this. You should have told me Mike bullied you back then. Mike was my underling. Did he do well this time? Jason's never gonna catch a break now. Linda, you might not know, but I saw your sister Carrie working in a sketchy place, fooling around. Carrie, a teenager and a girl at that, lost my parents' money support. Even with just a few $100 in child support, she could have still studied and gone to college. Maybe she was too used to the high life, and suddenly being poor just didn't sit right with her. So, she ended up doing shabby work for some fake prestige. Later, I graduated and landed a solid job. I used all my earnings, aside from living expenses, to pay back my parents. I just wanted to clear my debt and cut ties. They kept reaching out with apologies and so-called explanations, but I never forgave them. I got through the tough times by myself, and I'll carve out a bright future by myself too. The end.